world where equality is just another euphemism for mediocrity, where participation is more highly valued than achievement, where just enough to get by is the new standard of excellence. There is a small minority of people who fight back against such apathy, who struggle daily to reach new heights. These brave few are the hope for the future, the bright shining light for the next generation. They are the ones who will lead us to the places we have never dreamed of, to the undiscovered country, to reach goals only a few can even begin to imagine. Unfortunately, none of those people could be here tonight, so kick back and relax. Prepare yourself for several hours of fun, friendship, fascinating conversation, and fabulous music. All those F's, that's an alliteration and kind of a radio trick. Speaking of radio, you're listening to the most popular radio station in the history of broadcast radio, at least among stations that originate from Chris's living room. It's Curious Times. Your host is Curious Listener. Here she is, Chris.
All right, welcome everybody to Curious Times. It's Wednesday, September 20th. It's very cold, and I don't know what you're talking about, Mary Margaret. What post? What are you talking about? Okay, okay. See, I see a shiny thing, and I destroy the intro of my own show. So welcome. It's, yes, Wednesday night, September 20th. Very cold over here. It's going to get near freezing, and it's probably pretty close to there now, and I'm so freaking stupid I have refused to turn my furnace on, but before this night is out, I'm sure I will. There's only so many layers of sweaters and hoodies and everything else that you can. Bite your tongue. Bite your tongue, Mary Margaret. Bite your tongue. 97 degrees. Oh, my God. One extreme to the other, hey? Okay, so as promised, we have brand new guest to the show today, which is so exciting. The Kentucky Cave Creeper, Larry Johnson, and he is from Ohio originally, and he loves doing all of this exploring and caving, spelunking. I don't know if he does much, there's one thing to walk through a cave, and then come back out, all that, then there's the whole crawling around through and spelunking, as they call it, and ropes and all that. I don't know how far this guy goes, but we're gonna find out. He's explored many uncharted caves in Kentucky, and he's got all kinds of discoveries. He used to also go artifact hunting, and so he's got all of that kind of stuff to talk to us about. And if I understand correctly, there was at least a certain situation where there may have been some paranormal activity upon discovering or finding something. We'll get more information on that when Larry comes on. And the other thing is that you can check out his, he has a YouTube channel, and you can check that out. I'll give you guys the link in the chat room too. It's on the show page description though. If you just go on to Facebook, actually, you can find Kentucky Cave Creeper on Facebook. So facebook.com/Kentucky Cave Creeper. And on YouTube, it's a much more elaborate. I'm sure that if you just go on to YouTube and do the search Kentucky Cave Creeper, you will be able to find his page that way. I'm certainly not going to read out channel.com/UCL for 6 hours because the show will be over by then. And in any case, so it's going to be it is my pleasure to, notwithstanding the fact that he's a policeman, I still invited him on the show. Let's bring Larry Johnson on. Hi, Larry. Thanks for spending some time with us tonight.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for letting me come on to your show. It's really an honor to be here with you tonight.
Well, it's our great honor to have you, and we look forward to exploring the topic with you and finding out a little bit more about some of your experiences and in particular anything that starts to touch upon the paranormal gets us all salivating around here. You know what I mean? And
yes, I understand.
So that would also be good. I'm sure that it's tough for you. First of all, you are a police officer, and I think you are, at least, or you were.
Yes, I am one. Yes.
Yes, a law enforcement officer. So thank you for that. I'm sure you're one of the good guys. You know what I mean?
I'm a good guy. Thank you very much for that. Yes.
And I kind of tease any cops that come around here. You know what I mean? So I always go like, even though they're a cop, like I let them. Other night I was saying, well, we allow one cop on the show at a time. You know what I mean? And so since we have no other cops associated with the show at this point in time, we can allow you access. But and so I know that it can be a little bit. I believe that there's many law enforcement officers who have experienced paranormal activity in any number of situations and or are also using their spidey senses or somewhat of a bit of a psychic sort of intuitiveness in their own practice of their job. But I can imagine like some that have had to attend scene of a crime or any where a person has passed away. And I think that many times, though, police officers just keep their mouth shut about what they see because they don't want their other people to either, harass them or tease them or challenge their sanity. Have you had any of that kind of stuff on the job, like just setting aside the cave creeping stuff for a second?
No, I haven't had really much paranormal stuff. I mean, I might have had a little dream about something that's sort of similar to what occurs, but not a whole lot of paranormal stuff with the police officer. The paranormal stuff was to do more with my artifacts.
Okay, well, we're going to get to that. And so back to the dream thing then. So are you saying that you have had times where you've had maybe a little bit of a predictive type of a dream? So in other words, something you dream about turns out to happen later?
Yes, I've experienced in my lifetime. I guess some people may call that deja vu or something. I'm not sure. But yes, I've had a small dream or two, and it's actually come to play before.
Okay, so deja vu for me is during waking time. And it's like where all of a sudden it's almost like I go into a bit of a vacuum and I know, and things seem to slow down. And then I know, like just a step ahead, what the person's about to say, like, and the whole scene unfolds. Otherwise, it's like a predictive dream, like a prophetic dream, we call that. So you're having prophecy, and you're seeing the future in your dream. And so then I see that as being two different things, although it doesn't really matter what we want to call it. I think it's cool either way. So let's go back now then, and we can all read in your bio that as a young boy you were quite keen on rummaging around and exploring and all of that kind of stuff. And so, when's the first time that you got all exposed to cave exploration, and where did that passion grab hold of you?
Well, when I was very young and I used to watch shows on TV and stuff, I just always liked this type of stuff anyway, like dinosaurs, caves, adventure. But my brother really got me into cave exploring when I was real young. He started taking me to caves. He was an outdoorsman, and he pretty much is the one that got me started liking the outdoors.
Awesome. So now, and I see, by watching your videos that you also get your boys to tag along with you from time to time, it looks like.
Yes, my boys have been in a lot of my videos with me, and they've done some of the filming and stuff, and they're a lot of fun. They enjoy this stuff, and they've sort of helped me when have problems in caves and stuff. they'll
Good.
get me out safe.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Now, so that's an interesting name, Cave Creeper, and so, how long how long have you carried that sort of moniker, if you will? Like, how long have you?
Well, I started caving years ago. I really didn't have a name, but for the last few years, a friend of mine that worked for Animal Planet just sort of gave me the name of the Kentucky Cave, or well, he called me the Kentucky Caver, and I kind of changed my name to the Kentucky Cave Creeper, and I sort of came up with the Creeper on my own, and ever since then, everybody's just been calling me the Kentucky Cave Creeper.
Yeah. See, I'd just call you the Creeper, and that wouldn't necessarily be what you'd want, but that's good. And so now you're kind of building a brand around that then, and I see that you have had some other media exposure and things like that. So tell everybody, because there could be people who are listening that can't read the bio that's all there, because it's quite an extensive description of some of the things all the way from when you were a young kid, that you found. But why don't you run us through who are you, what kind of things have you found so far, and then we can focus in on some of the paranormal activity that may have arisen with some of your discoveries.
Absolutely. Yeah, my name, of course, I'm Larry Johnson. I was born in Ohio, and when I was like 5 or 6, my parents were originally from Kentucky, so they moved up there to go to work and everything, and then I come back down here when I was probably 5 or 6 years old. I've lived in Kentucky all my life, and started out going in the woods when I was very young with my friend. We'd stay from daylight to dark, and I got into all this collecting and everything. It probably, when I was 12 years old, I really started hunting for arrowheads because local farmers had some collections on their walls, and they really interested me in what was out there and what was going on. And that kind of got me started in the arrowheads. And so I hunted cornfields, plowed fields all my life. We used to go camp out, like take long distance trips and camp out maybe 60 miles away from home. We would look under cliff ledges, caves, and everywhere for stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool. So now take us back to some of like when you were a kid. Like, what's your biggest find when you were a kid?
Probably the biggest thing that I ever actually found, the largest find I ever found when I was like 18 or 20 years old, was a prehistoric skeleton. That was the biggest find that I've ever found. Me and my friend were out in the woods, and we discovered a prehistoric skeleton that was about 400 or 500 years old.
Now I'm trying to understand, because normally prehistoric stuff is like, has to be dug for, yes?
Yeah, this area was probably a burial ground, some type of a burial ground, and there is a lot of stuff buried in this place, but where we discovered this prehistoric man, it was like a stone in like a bunch of rocks, a stone box type grave. We just happened to look down in there and seen bones in there sticking up out of the dirt, and that's how it was discovered.
Wow. And so you had all of that was tested out then, and that's how they decided that it was it carbon dated and all of that, or what was?
Well, we didn't have it carbon dated, but what happened is we took it to the state archaeologist at the university at the time. So he examined it based on some of the artifacts we found with it, and he determined to be about 400 to 500 years old, the type of burial and place it was. And the coroner also took a look at it We had to
Uh-huh.
take it to the coroner in the county we found it in, and he examined it, and he said it probably had some disease on it, maybe arthritis or something, and he told us it wasn't any kind of modern bones. But based on the artifacts and the area that the archaeologists are familiar with, that's how they determined it was probably 400 to 500 years old.
Wow. That's very, very cool. And is that the one that they gave a name to the...
Yes, we called it the Krillsboro mummy. That was it was found in a town called Krillsboro, near a town called Krillsboro. So I just sort of gave it the name the Krillsboro mummy.
Okay. And so there's been and so nobody else has shown who has, like, so now what's become of those bones? Like, what's become of that skeleton? And was it the full skeleton or just some of the bones, or?
Well, it was it made a person. You can actually build a person, arms, legs, the body, jawbone, head, and it didn't build the complete. It wasn't every single bone, but it was a lot of the bones, enough to build. I have my pictures, of course, on my YouTube site and everything of it. You can see some of the other bones. There could have been some extra bones. We didn't know our anatomy real good that we put in the picture that didn't belong to it, but most of the ones did, because he examined each one of them. And the Indian or the prehistoric man, we're not sure exactly, but he's in a secret location.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Like, you left him there, and he was studied where he rested. He wasn't taken. Is that like what was?
Actually, at the time we took him with us. We just brought all those bones with us, and we knew that it was different. We knew enough about human bones to know what it was, and we took it, and I contacted him. I should have left it there, but when you're 20 years old or 18, 20 years old, you don't think about stuff like that. You don't think about leaving stuff.
Yeah, I hear you. And you're lucky you didn't get your ass haunted for the rest of your life over that. You know what I mean? And,
I know what you mean there. It is a big worry. I still get a little worried about what might happen to me, but I think he's accepted me.
It would have by now, and I think that it wasn't. I think sometimes, the intent matters a lot, and so it wasn't out of any malicious, deliberate thing that you were doing. So, okay, and so that has been put to rest somewhere safe now.
Yeah, it's I haven't in this disclosed location there, but
undisclosed location where hopefully some other 20-year-old kid doesn't find it and then hop it out of there and take it in somewhere. But that's cool. So this was not necessarily like inside of a cave. It was.
No, the bones, when we found them, they were not inside of a cave. They were simply under a cliff ledge.
Right.
We had looked in places all over, and that particular skeleton was found under a cliff ledge. But I did have another skull that back when I was that age, that a man brought and gave to me, or I actually, he gave it to me basically. Traded something for it, and it came out of a cave. Now, I've had that skull from since I was young. That's the different skull, and that was the only two remains of two different types of people I had.
I thought about you the other night because a brand new show had started. A kind of a reality show. And I don't know if it's called like Darkness or In the Dark. I thought I had written it down, and now I can't find it. But what they do is that they put three people in a cave, and they're at different points in the cave, at different entrances of the cave, or the cave system, and they are given, what is it, I think 5 days, and but the thing is that they are in complete darkness. They aren't given lights or anything.
Oh,
and and so then they each have to try, their goal is to find each other and an exit, or just an exit. You know what I mean? And in the absolute complete darkness. And so after a certain period of time, your sensory deprivation and all this kind of stuff, like, it starts to really mess with you, hey?
Yeah, I can tell you, I've turned the flashlights off in a cave just to see what it looks like in the dark, and that is the darkest dark you'll ever get. I mean, you can't see nothing, shadows of any kind.
Yeah, so I thought about you the other day when I first saw that. So if you might want to look that up and see what it is. Now, have you gone there?
That's interesting, yes.
Have you gone to other countries or places in the world to do caving specifically, or?
Not specifically to other countries, but I have been in some caves in Israel. We took a trip over there, and I did get a chance to go in some of the touristy type areas and just a few things like that.
Gotcha. See, I wouldn't mind it myself, and when I was younger, I would have been all for it, but like things like spiders, they like totally freak me out these days, and like, so I wouldn't have nothing to do with nothing like that.
Well,
ever.
I can tell you one thing that would definitely have scared you. When I was 14 years old, my cousins lived in Texas. So I went down and stayed with them. We played out in the desert. It was probably over 100 degrees. We walked down in an area where like a creek was, and there's this little cave. It doesn't go real far back, but far enough back, 20, 30 feet. So we go back in it, and it's got thousands of Granddaddy Longlegs on the wall. I mean, just surrounding the walls in clumps. I have never seen so many spiders in my life. It would be a horror show for somebody that didn't like spiders, I'm pretty sure.
And, well, daddy longlegs aren't so bad for me, but it's them ugly black freaking ones of various sizes that, that move faster than you could, faster than I can get my vacuum cleaner. You know what I'm saying? And,
exactly.
One time I had a friend in Texas, because everything's bigger in Texas, yes? She took a picture of her goal was to take a picture of a raccoon that had gotten into her garage. And so she sends me this picture. And so now she would have had to take the picture. She would have had to download the picture from her camera to her computer. Then she would have had to upload the picture from her computer to the email or whatever, however she was sending it to me. She would have had to look at that second picture at least 3 times to send it to me. She sends me this picture. I see this spider that's like this big, you know what I mean? And I said to her, I go, oh my God, how big is that spider? She's all like, what spider? I'm like, the spider that's bigger than the effing raccoon. And she didn't even notice the spider.
There's nothing I hate worse than a spider. I can deal with snakes. I'll deal with anything, but a spider is like Indiana Jones is to snakes. That's what a spider is to me. I don't like a spider on me.
How do you cope with that then, when you just have to suck it up, Buttercup, and deal with it? If I guess spiders are in caves.
Yeah, if you find them in the entrances and stuff, you just have to deal with it. Yeah, it's just it seems a little different when they're in the wild than when they're in your house. I don't know what it is. It doesn't bother me as much when they're outside.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so now that's good. Then what? So now we've got you found this whole skeleton. Now tell me. And of course, when you were a kid, okay, quickly, just for fun, for shiggles, as we say, for shits and giggles, tell people about this thing that you found in the farmer's field that was, had the initials DB on it.
Okay, yeah. Near here is a fort called Fort Paint Lick. It's not developed or anything, but it's just on private property. They said the fort set up there. There's a sign where an Indian chief called Thunder had killed a girl there near the fort, and she was murdered there near it. So I asked him for permission just to look around and go up there just to see the site. And there's this old spring, or a place they used to go down and hide from the Indians, that's still walled up. The pioneers made of stone, but it's not advertised. You won't find it. And I did a video on it though. But anyway, I was in this field at the site where the fort was, and there was a cow. A cow had apparently stepped down in the ground with its hoof and went way down in the ground, probably over 6 inches. And there was a piece of metal in there, and when I pulled it out, it had the initials DB on it, and scrolled like in old Revolutionary letters. It was a square-looking plate that could have been, I was told by some archaeologists and stuff, a survey plate or something they might have laid down in the ground. And Daniel Boone was a blacksmith, and he surveyed stuff. And he came in with Colonel William Miller, the guy that built the fort in the Cumberland Gap. They all kind of came in together. So he would have known him, and Boonesboro is not far from this place. If you go through the woods, if you were going, it would be several miles, but it's not that far. So it's possible that it could be something from Daniel Boone, but it's very unusual to see like really old letters. I have it in of course that's on my YouTube channel as well. It was featured in the magazine in the local town, a couple magazines that I had it published in that I wrote for and published it.
Very good. That's very good. Then imagine, like, along the way, like, through all of this, even when you were younger and when you were looking for arrowheads and things, like, did you ever come across, other things like buttons from old military uniforms or old shell casings or anything at all like that?
Yes, we've been down places where, like, they kept slaves and stuff in the Civil War. One time I remember going with my friend with some metal detectors and dug up this little bottle. It had a metal lid. It was glass, and it actually had some bullets. It was full of bullets, probably from the late 1800s. And there was belt buckles, rusty belt buckles we found there, and horseshoes and things to do with horses. Quite a bit of stuff like that.
Cool. Very cool. And so are you, like, do you have, like, a whole, is your house overtaken with all the stuff you found, and is your wife still talking to you?
Yeah. I have a collection of a lot of stuff that I've collected in my lifetime. I kept all my stuff. I never did sell anything or dig anything up for profit. I just had a passion for it. And I went to college some, and I was trying to become an archaeologist in my life. I've got about half of it done.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's just been a passion of mine. So I have quite a bit of stuff I've collected. Yes.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. Okay. Now, so now let's move to stuff specifically. Guesstimate how many caves you've explored. Different caves have you explored?
Kentucky's loaded with caves. The region here, this area was just a region where there a lot of caves were. Of course, Mammoth Cave, the longest cave in the world, is maybe 100 miles from me. It's not that far. I've been there too. But I don't know. I've probably been in 100 caves maybe around in my entire life. There's a lot of caves. And there's a lot of them that I haven't been to that many of them around here that I still haven't been to.
So where's the cave map? You know what I mean? I've never thought about, let's go to that one. Like, is it just like in the caving community that you find out about these things, or how do you find out where these darn things are?
Well, all my life, people just knows about these things on their property, and a lot of these caves aren't mapped. There may be some people that's went in them from the Fish and Wildlife. Some of them, I know the one one of the caves, they went back to the first room, and they didn't go any farther back after that because it was full of water. But I've been as far as you can go back in that cave, probably 10 times. And I found an albino crawdad in there one time, and probably when I was probably 20 years old. And they said that the albino crawdads didn't exist that far north. They were a little bit farther south and more over to the east, but one had never been recorded that far north. But we saw it, so they say if we find another one, let them know, about that, or maybe take a photo of it, capture it or something, so they can look at it. They don't know why they're farther up like that.
I would say don't capture it. I'm all on board with taking pictures of it, but I'm not the boss.
You're probably right. It's probably better to completely leave anything alone because they're real strict about all that. I never hurt animals. One thing that I don't do is I won't kill wildlife and disturb. If I see a bat in a cave, I'll go around him. I'm not going to hurt him,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. That's good.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so, and have you ever, what's the longest amount of time you've spent in one cave, like consecutive time?
We went in one morning early and came out way after dark, 10 hours, over 10 hours in this one. It's a cave called Pine Hill. It's about 20 miles from where I'm doing my interview right now. And you can walk and walk and walk and walk forever in that cave. Crawl and go through water and everything else. There's a couple passages, and it's even mapped, maybe 4 or 5 miles long. It's really nice for people that want to go in one that's less dangerous.
Right. And so you've never really camped out overnight in one and just gone in for days at a time or anything like that?
Not really for days at a time. It's just been a whole day. And we've been in at night, though. We've did cave exploration late at night. Maybe we've got there at 1 o'clock in the morning and been in one at night. But it does. It's not that it matters. You know what I mean? I'm just, because I imagine that some of these it would be like, here's your conundrum is like, if it's a big long cave, like, I don't know if you call them long caves or big caves or what you call them, but, you get so far in, and then you're like at a point where, so you get 5 hours in is the max if you're going to turn around and go back out that day, And so then, for me, I'd be all like, if I ever come back here, I got to do that same 5, hours if I want to go any further, you know what I mean? And since I'm here already, we had thought about camping out in them some. I mean, it would be a fun thing to do, but you're limited on what you can carry. And, you got to carry something small, and you don't want to take too much with you because it will bog you down. Only what you can really take.
That's right. And so, interesting. So you've never gone so far. Now, in any of your caving, sometimes these guys have to like rappel and do, or to get through to the next chamber, they gotta crawl through really tight spots or this now, and in some cases going underwater to come back up on another side and not like
exactly. There's a lot of caves around here. The one I was telling you about that's 10 mile that we stayed 10 hours in, you can actually go in the water to get into a room. It's like that. But as far as the rappelling part, there's a place, there's a cave system called the Sloan's Valley Cave System, which is down south of Somerset, Kentucky, near the Daniel Boone National Forest area. It's pretty wild. That cave is 20-something miles long and one of the most treacherous caves in the United States. It has lots of pits and everything in it. We have been down in that when I was younger. We would do it more. But there's a 60-foot pit that goes straight down called the Screaming Willies. You can look it up on the internet. It's called, and people have died in it. There's been a couple that's died. I guess they tried to free climb and they lost their balance and fell and it killed them. Well, I used to put a rope down in there and we would actually, that's how we would get in. We would go down 60 foot and straight up a rope 60 foot. And I'm even made a rope ladder that we even used at one time. We would go in and out. So several times, probably 5 times, we were in and out of that pit and way down in this cave, and you had to crawl around the walls and other areas. Very large stalactites, stalagmites, and it's a beautiful large cave like Mammoth Cave. It's like being on a tour in Mammoth Cave down there. We didn't have a map of this cave. We would just take off and stay for hours. We would take chalk and mark on the walls before we had the glow sticks that we use now and stuff.
Right. And so there you go. That's how you, instead of breadcrumbs,
no breadcrumbs, no.
And so now so is it, are the walls of all these caves like stone, or have some been dirt, or what, clay, or what, what are?
They're all like cut out of limestone here in Kentucky. There'll be limestone, but yes, there's a lot of dirt that probably seeps down through the ground in some of them. And like you actually, in this one room, we enter the first room. We gotta bend down, wade through water. We come into this room full of water, and there is a clay wall right there. It's like a big giant mud embankment somehow. And you can actually, if you could put your hands in them, you could climb up them. And it's interesting. You can get up there. It's real flat, padded down. People have either lived up there in prehistoric times or not. It's like a big area. You can run. But if you don't watch what you're doing, it also just drops straight off and about 10 or 20 foot. So if you weren't paying attention, you could just fall to your death. So you gotta be real careful about what you're doing.
I imagine there's a lot of do's and don'ts in caving.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them, and we can get into a lot of the dangers of them if you want to, and there's been a lot of things happen to me, and I've got stories. I thought about doing something called Cave Stories on my thing about. I've had embarrassing moments, moments that's almost killed me, stupid things we've done. Like getting down there with these ropes and they're covered with mud, and when you try to get out of a 40-foot pit, your rope's so slick you can't even hardly climb it because you forgot to put knots in it. Now that's not very smart, but we've done it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that's, and that's how the early, it's like trial by error, and this is how we learn how to do things, is by how not to do them. And we learn how not to do them because we do them and we find out, we shouldn't have done that.
And in that particular one I learned that lesson in, we had went down in a pit in the Sloan's Valley cave system, tied our rope around a giant stalactite. It was joined from the ground up, and that wasn't very smart because it could have broke. And if it broke the big stalactite, it would have come down in there on us, maybe killed us. We just didn't think about stuff like that. And I would never do that now because that could even destroy it.
Yeah. Now, okay. So time-wise, I'm thinking that I don't want to get us partway into the paranormal part of it, and then take a. So we're going to save that. We're going to dig into that after the break. That will take in a few minutes. We'll do a song break and then go from there. Anybody who has any questions, feel free to call or to put them in the chat room. I'll do my best, and Larry, you can keep an eye on the chat as well and see if there's any questions that arise in there from people. Who's there from South Carolina on the phone? If you're there for a psychic reading, we're not doing psychic readings tonight. And so, just so that you don't get mad at me because you wait 2 hours and then find out there's no psychic readings. If we'll get we could do some, we'll call them like the Kentucky Cave Creeper Psychic, you know what I mean? And, but we won't guarantee accuracy of the psychic reading. I'm just kidding. And, but if anybody does have a question, South Carolina, if you have a question, you can feel free to press 1 on your phone and say hello to us right now, or you can press 1, or if you're in the chat room, hello. Hi, who's that?
Hello. How are you?
Good, who's that?
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Okay, wonderful. This is Jamie.
Oh, hey, how's it going? So there you
Oh,
go.
pretty good.
There you are, listening in. You got any questions for our creeper?
Actually, I do have a few questions, and
Okay.
one or two of them you've already answered, but I actually wrote them down, so if you give me a second, I can read them and then maybe you can answer.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
And you're speaking
Okay.
a bit, so make sure that you're talking close to your phone or whatever it is that you're speaking into there. So that's Jamie.
Okay.
The person.
Are you actually looking for a producer for a reality show on air today or tonight?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah. If one, if anybody's interested in putting me on any kind of reality shows, I'm looking for that. Yeah. Anything like that.
Have you ever been on television before?
Yeah, I've been on some television, like featured on a thing called Mystery Monday about my caves, and on a Kentucky Collectibles show with a 300-year-old sword advertising, and I have those on my YouTube channel that people can watch.
Oh, okay. And what's that address?
Excuse me, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, what's the address?
It's my YouTube channel, Kentucky Cave Creeper. All you gotta do is go to YouTube and type in Kentucky Cave Creeper, and you'll see it on my videos. I have the videos of that.
The link is also on the show page for the YouTube channel. But the easiest way to find the YouTube channel is just type in Kentucky Cave Creeper, and you'll find it easy peasy. I'm sure that you must have it also on your Facebook, a link to that on your Facebook page, and you can find the Facebook page by going Kentucky Cave Creeper as well. You can find...
I have a like page on there, and it's on my Facebook as well, yes.
Yeah. Anything else?
Actually, I have a very important question, okay?
Yeah.
The artifacts that you mentioned earlier, would you be willing to have them read by a psychic on Chris's show? I'm just curious if you'd be willing to do that.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't mind at all having artifacts read. I'm up for them reading anything they want to read. Yes.
Now, Chris, do you have any psychics that are willing or able to do such a thing? Like look at the picture and actually do a psychic reading on the history?
Yeah, like of the bones, if you could give me one on that would be fine. Yeah.
I think that more than anything, like the picture might assist, but they would still be tapping into, into whatever it is that they tap into. If it's a dead person, then a psychic medium might be able to connect with whoever used to belong to those bones, Otherwise, people can, through the energy of Larry, and a visual picture of the item, they may or may not be able to glean something psychically, from that. I'm more interested in, once we get into the story of this, item or items that have possibly, resulted in some paranormal activity, we can often get an intuitive idea of what that's all about, based upon a description of whatever it is that happened, and that's more or less what I'm kind of looking forward to. Corinne, you're unmuted.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Oh, Corinne was unmuted. Somebody else was unmuted there, and so I was just telling them that they were, but now they're gone. And so we can, not to say, I don't want to say yes or no. I mean, there's people that we have who do psychometry, in which case they would, be better off holding the item, you know what I mean, being in proximity to the energy of the item. Other people, like Kimber, somebody like Kimber might be able to just read the energy coming off of a picture of it, or see if she saw an aura or was receiving anything. Most of us would probably just have some kind of a intuition about it if anything, would be my best guess.
What about astral projection? Using that to read it.
I haven't, or remote viewing. I don't have anybody that specializes in that or lists that as their primary.
A psychic investigator would.
I don't have anybody like that.
Is that like the Star Chamber or something? The remote viewing?
A psychic investigator is an investigator who happens to be psychic. So you're both. Used in missing person cases, where they read energy and they read.
I talked to you earlier about being a lot of cops have psychic ability, you know what I mean? And they might not know that they're tapping into it is all. They just seem to always take the right turn or go down the right alley or, know where the bad guy's hiding. And
I took a class on it, a psychic investigator class. It was really fun. And they actually do stuff like that where you look at a picture and you get a read from it. Just looking at a picture. You're not even in person or anything. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool stuff.
I can't say what they're, it's not for me to ever determine what they're, it's like a lot of times even mediums and whatnot, I'm like, how do you know even where your information's coming from? You know what I mean?
Gotcha,
They're operating through a spirit guide or I'm like, how do you even know necessarily? I've challenged some mediums to not challenge them to doubt them, but to say as a personal challenge to them, try to ascertain for yourself, whether you're actually just reading the mind of, if you're picking up information about my dead grandmother, how do we know that you're not just reading my mind versus you're getting that information from my dead grandmother? And
that's definitely a good statement. I agree with you 100%. Because you don't really know the difference. It could be the grandma or it could be some other spirit that you really have never met before. You know what I mean? It could be giving you lies. It could be lying to you.
Well, I'm not one that tends to go down that sort of paranoid road, but I think that sometimes that's the case. There could be some pranksters. I don't think it's as, again, this is just me, right? I don't think it's as prevalent as some people will have, will be all like, oh, be very good. I'm all like, I think they got better things to do than to sit around and go, oh, I'm going to go prank that Chris radio host in Canada. I doubt it, But to me, it's interesting because you're still could be getting the accurate information. For me, it's just out of an interest that we know the difference between whether so if a psychic medium tells me something that I didn't know at all, which has happened, and then I've been able to go and verify that after the fact, then I go, well, she's had to have been connected to that spirit or to some other spirit that's connected to that spirit because she wasn't reading my mind because I didn't even know. You know what I mean? And,
I do.
So anyway, so that's it. But here we go, getting all off topic here. Can
I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Kentucky Cave Creeper man.
Yeah, go ahead. Ask
okay.
I'd love you to, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever personally had a very real paranormal experience?
Yeah, I have. You
and
mean
would you be willing to tell us about it?
Yeah, you mean like a haunting?
No, an actual paranormal encounter where you've actually encountered a spirit of sorts. Have you had any experience like that?
I guess like it seems like when I found those prehistoric skeleton that something did visit me. The door came open, and I could hear the door come open this is when I was sleeping. I could hear the door open, and something came and stood and looked at me. and I actually could see the room, and everything around, and I saw like a white apparition standing there. This happened several times right after we found the prehistoric skeleton, and it would leave. It would walk away. You could hear the door open again, and it would leave. I could physically hear the sliding glass door, and I don't know why a spirit would have it open. You would hear a sliding glass door open.
Yeah,
It
that is
doesn't make
weird.
sense. It doesn't make sense to me on that, but.
What do you think, Chris? Do you think it was real?
Again, I want to hear the whole. I want to hear like the whole back. Like might make more. That was a pretty brief description of what happened.
Okay.
Another thing that occurred, I guess maybe this one would be a little bit easier to figure out. I woke up one time and I heard my radio playing. And it was unplugged. You could look over there and see a green glow on it, and this little girl appeared on my bed dressed in 1800 clothing, late 1800, early 19th century, or early 1900s clothing, and then she just vanished in front of me. When that radio was playing, I woke up, I looked over, I saw her, she vanished. I actually got up. I did not go back to bed. I got up, went into the other room because it scared me so bad. So that was very real to me because I did not go back to sleep. I actually got up.
Yeah, you weren't. It wasn't like that. You were half asleep dreaming.
Well, we had been to a place where we had found some other prehistoric bones that day. A few of them and some artifacts. We actually crossed through a church graveyard where it was just over the hill. So I don't know if we picked up something from a girl, if there was something down there. And then after this stuff, I actually put that stuff back there. I just couldn't deal with the little girl appearing on my bed and stuff.
Well, that's what often happen even to people who pick up stuff at garage sales or they pick up something at an estate sale. Is that there's, sometimes the spirit is attached to an item and they will follow that item to wherever that item goes. And so, so when somebody asks you, ever again, have you ever seen a ghost? Then you can say yes.
That was actually something that appeared and vanished in front of me that looked like a child. So, yeah, I would call that. I had a few things in my life, not many, but just a few probably around that time.
Yeah, now see, here's the thing is that the good spirits out there, in my opinion, they don't want to freak us out, scare us, or do anything harmful. You know what I mean? And so, like if this were actively happening to you now, I might be more inclined to have you, do some things like, jotting down the experience, taking note of any other observations, things that happened preceding and afterwards, all of those kind of things. And then I might have you, try to, like in the case of the little girl, like she might have had something she wanted you to know or something. Like I don't believe she definitely didn't want to cause you any harm. Also, the other thing I would want to ask somebody is, was there anything like on your mind, kind of thing at the time? Sometimes these experiences could happen to us if we're, deeply contemplating something or in a different, in a sad emotional state or something like that, And but in your case, since this is on the heels of a caving or a find of some sort, I wouldn't doubt for any at all that that there's energy attached to some of those items and could definitely be there. I think that again, there is no harm intended to you, or there would be ongoing negative activity surrounding you. You know what I mean? And see, and there's times like that like if it were actively happening right now, I'd be like, maybe let's find out if the little girl is earthbound. Is she stuck? Has she crossed over? You know what I mean? And if she's earthbound, maybe we can help her to go find her, her spirit family on the other side, or go to heaven or whatever you call it, right?
I believe in ghosts or spirits. I mean, I've had some things I just can't explain, so I'm not going to put that off. I mean, it's just it's something that I've seen enough that I think something is out there on that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, it's one of those things that for me, and I've said it many times on my show, it's nothing I feel a need to convince anybody of. And anybody who's had an experience of any kind, once that's happened to you, you know beyond any doubt at all that there's something going on, that there's life after death, or that our soul continues on, however we want to phrase that. There is no doubt whatsoever. Now, when other people will come to the belief, realization, or anything else like that, it's none of my worry or concern, and so I'm not going to waste too much of my energy trying to convince anybody of it. But I would have to say definitely that little girl. Like, I'd want to know more about the whole. We kind of went out of turn here. This is kind of the stuff I wanted to get into after the break, and so that we could just get the whole background leading up to it. Because wasn't there something also that you had where there was some kind of glowing light in the cave itself, or was that?
No, I'll tell you about that. The skull that I was telling you about that I acquired when I was young. It was supposed to have been like maybe probably a prehistoric Indian skull or something. They found other ones, and no doubt about it, it's very old. Well, I had it sitting behind my bed one night. I woke up and I raised up. I turned around and I saw blue-looking light in the eye sockets. Now, as bizarre as that seems, I turned around in my bed. I saw that, and it scared me pretty bad. Yeah. And I don't know if it was, I can't tell you if I was imagining it, if it was real, but when I got up, I turned around, it looked real to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the whole thing, is sometimes, there's a perfectly logical explanation behind some of this stuff, and something, and as a paranormal, you're a police officer, and so you know that you try to, like in our case with paranormal stuff, like my first effort is to always try and find some mundane cause of it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Rule out any possibility that it could be, just some, a trick of the eye. I'll give you an example. One time I've lived in this condo where I live right now for 20 some odd years. Okay. And so, I've gone from my living room into my kitchen at all hours of the day and night, thousands of times. Yes. And, and so one night I'm like going out, it's the middle of the night, it's really late at night or whatever, middle of the night. And, there's this like light, and it seems to kind of be moving a little bit. And I'm all like, oh my God. Like, I was totally like that's a freaking UFO or something, right? And I was just like looking, and I'm like, oh, where's my camera, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like a little bit like kind of freaked out by this, actually. And so anyhow, I go and I find, like, after maybe a total of, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes of just being absolutely just blown away by this, and like not sure what to make of it, I realized that it's windy outside, and there's a tree that is like because the light is kind of there and gone and there and gone and there and gone.
I understand that.
It turns out that it's just that there's a light that's always, and see, for me, that light, there's never a light there. You know what I mean? And the reason is because there's always a tree there. And in this case, the wind was blowing such that it was heavy enough wind that it was like causing the branches to move enough that the light would peek through, and then it would disappear, and then it would peek through, and then it would disappear. And I'm all like, finally, I laughed at myself, right? I'm all like, oh my God, it's just, but that's how things can happen that are absolutely not paranormal at all, but can leave you convinced absolutely that something's going on. But I wouldn't, be in favor of going to sleep in the same room as a skull that I dug up, though, really. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't.
When you're young, you don't think about that. I mean, when you're like, then again, but I would not encourage anyone to go dig up any bodies. It's against the law. Now, if I find a skeleton now, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to call the archaeologist, a coroner in. I'm not going to touch that thing. Then you might call us grave robbers, whatever then, but I won't do that now. And I will encourage everyone to leave it and report it to the proper authorities,
Of course. But again, I'd have to say to you that, if you're seeing like blue, now you were a younger kid then, or how old were you?
I was about 18 years old at that time. Yeah, I was still just right out of high school then.
Yeah, but you're old enough to know, like you're not, you know what I mean? Like you're old enough at that point to know what to know what you're seeing.
Right.
And so, I think that's interesting. I think that's really interesting. There's none of this has ever meant you any harm either, by the way. And
no, but the apparition that I told you visited me, that happened probably 2 or 3 times. The same situation, and that nothing ever harmed me. No.
Oh, now what they're trying to communicate with you. Because the reason I think that is because they're showing up, like it's not an accident that they're showing up, like they've come 3 times, let's say, okay?
Right.
And so it's not just like that, it's a spirit passing through who's unaware of you. And, because I always talk about how, just like we have human beings who are absolutely, like there could be 20 or more spirits surrounding me right at this moment in time. You know what I mean? And
yes.
A couple of them might be ones that are spirits attached to me, which are like dead family members or friends. You know what I mean? Others, though, might just be spirits wandering through, and they're as oblivious to me as I am to them, because we're on different. Why do I always have trouble getting this word in?
Dimensions or different planes?
Dimensions. And so we're like crossing paths with each other, oblivious of the existence of each other. But this particular case, you've got this, was it a girl? Is this the one that was the girl?
No, the skull was a different thing that happened with the girl. The white apparitions were associated with after the skeleton find.
Which is the one the apparition that's come to you 3 times now?
The apparition that came to us a couple times was the one associated with the find after the skeleton that you see the photo of the skeleton. The little girl we actually found some other artifacts and bones, and that was a different find that she appeared.
Interesting. I would have to know that because the same spirit seems to be coming to you, that they would like to be acknowledged. You know what I mean? And I would encourage you, if such a thing ever happens, and as long as you're not like so creeped out and freaked out about it, you know what I mean? You're safe. You know what I mean? You're safe. That you could even just telepathically just say, like, can I help you? Do you need help? You know what I mean? So put your police officer self on, for example. And if you came across, somebody that seemed to be lost, your first thing would be like, do you need help, right? Do you need any help? And so if you think about it, if you have an earthbound spirit they may need some help. And they think that you're a safe guy to get that help from. If they didn't think you were safe, then they would either be haunting your ass, like doing bad things to scare you, you know what I mean? Or they wouldn't be coming back to you, you know what I mean? And
I've never thought about it like that. I've never heard anybody say that to me, so that's interesting,
If you ever have the presence of mind and, to stop yourself, calm yourself, right? You're safe. And you telepathically just say to whatever it is, do you need help? If you need help, go to the light. You know what I mean? If you're stuck here and you need to find the other side, go to the light. Your family and loved ones are waiting for you. They love you and they want you to be with them. They've been waiting a long time for you. Anything like that. And you can just keep on, saying to them, you don't have to stay here anymore. You're okay. You can go. And I always say to people, like, you can tell them, hey, once you cross over, doesn't mean you can't visit again. You know what I mean? And so don't worry about that either. But sometimes the spirit will be earthbound for more than one reason. One, they're scared shitless to go to the other side because they think that God is going to condemn them to hell and fire and brimstone and all of that.
I get that.
Two, they don't know they're dead. They don't know they're dead. Three, they're so attached to something or someone that's still here, okay, that they're stuck by that. And in the case of somebody that's so old, in other words, they've been crossed over for so long, I can only imagine then that it would have to be the one that the spirit doesn't know it's dead yet. Doesn't know it's dead. And so in which case you could gently let them know, hey buddy, you're not alive anymore. You know what I mean? Your family's waiting for you on the other side, and it's so awesome on the other side. And you should go. And if you need help, we can get some angels to come and bring you to the light. You know what I mean? And it's just by mere intent and thought and all of those things that I believe that you could accomplish assisting that spirit to cross over if they're an earthbound spirit. Or you can alternate. And now, if you're not getting any hit on that, and they keep coming back, for example, or is to say, okay, is there something you need me to know? You know what I mean? Are you trying to tell me something?
I guess I've just kind of always been afraid to pursue it, because once something like that happens, I just wanted to get away from it. I was afraid I might open up something that I didn't want to get involved in, something worse. I just didn't. It's just the fear of that. I mean, I actually fear sometimes the thought of spirits. It's a scary thing.
Yeah. I think in some people, they disagree with me and they think I'm too simplistic in my thinking and whatnot. Is that, if you have a good intent, you're not going looking for them, number one, okay? They're coming looking for you. And you don't have an evil intent against them. You're not trying to, being nasty to them to get them to react in any certain way or anything like that. You have a good heart. And, I feel that, I've also always said, that when I came here to this lifetime, I believe that I come with my own spirit guide, with my own guardian angels, with my team. I call them my team. You know what I mean? And they got me this far. So I just keep trusting in my team. My team has my back. And so since I'm not going out of my way looking for trouble, then, like if you're going in and digging up graves and trying to get rich and being disrespectful to, then that's different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
Then you're not conducting yourself in a very good way then. And so any other thing like that, I honestly feel like that the Creator, your guides, your spirit guides, your angels, guardians, animal totems, whatever all it is that we have, they got your back and they'll keep you protected. You know what I mean? I truly do believe that. And I don't know if you're a praying man or what, if you got, if you're like that, but after anything like that, that you can always just say your prayer, that.
Yeah, I do. I'm a Baptist, so I mean I pray. Yeah. I do.
So you could also just ask God, your God or what you believe in, to help the spirit and to help protect you. You know what I mean? Some people, they go specifically, like, let's say that an incident happens like this, suddenly a glowing light shows up. There's some people so trained that they would like instantly go, oh, holy light or bubble or shield or, Archangel Michael or whatever protection method that they have in place. You know what I mean? And so that they might engage that right away. But, even in the immediately following, even you might want to start going through a practice after you leave a cave. You know what I mean? To just consciously and intentionally clear your energy and, again, telepathically tell any spirits that might be with you at that time to stay at the cave. You know what I mean? Don't come home.
I never have done that. I have said a prayer if I put something back in the ground that I thought needed to be, but I haven't thought about saying one when I walk out of the cave or something. No.
Right. And it doesn't have to be anything that if you're with other people, no one else has to even notice that you're doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, we don't have to speak these words out loud necessarily.
No, it could be a private thing. Sure. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
And so even if on your way home in the car or whenever whatever it is, you know what I mean? Just like ask either clear yourself, because I feel we have the ability to clear our own energy. You know what I mean? Or ask for the Creator or your team or whoever you want to ask them to help clear your energy so that anything that belongs to stay in the cave stays in the cave and doesn't come home with you.
Now, since you do mention things that can follow you in a cave, I know there's one cave that's not too far from here that's been featured on shows and like just local stuff. They say there's an Indian spirit in there, and when you go in there, it touches people and stuff. They feel that. And that's something, a lot of them say it kind of freaks them out. And I haven't been to that particular cave yet. I think it's even maybe controlled to where you have to get permission to go in it. But it's just interesting about that particular thing. With
and I would like to, the funny thing is this, is that the power of suggestion is an incredibly strong thing. And so if it's now become such lore that people get touched. The same thing happens in a lot of paranormal, these tourist attractions where there's paranormal, where they set up tours and all of this and then raking in all this money on that, right? They're all like, oh, over by the swimming pool, there's always such and such that happens. So when people go through, they're all like, oh, when I was by the pool, such and such a thing happened, And I'm not always convinced that some of this isn't by power of suggestion. Or sometimes people feel such a need to be able to feel special that they had some paranormal experience, you know what I mean? Or that you have to say that happened to them because otherwise, like, it happens to everybody else, but it didn't happen to me, and so then what's wrong with me? And so I may as well just say that the thing happened to me. And I, just think that It's powerful. I'm not saying the Indian dude isn't touching people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Not saying
right.
that at all. But,
You're saying a more isolated experience, a paranormal thing that hasn't occurred before that someone comes up with is better than the power of suggestion where everybody feels like
right. Well,
they should see something.
if I were to go into that cave not knowing anything about the Indian dude that is going to touch me, you know what I mean?
Right.
Then, and I experience that, well, then that also helps to corroborate it then, you know? But if I go in there knowing the story, then it doesn't mean that it discounts it at all. But whenever I'm dealing with paranormal stuff, I'm always looking for things that I can say support that was what that was. And anything that happens as a result of somebody having no knowledge whatsoever about it to beforehand, and then something going on, that to me is a bit of a corroboration. You know what I mean? It's independent testimony, not unlike a police officer, right?
But I can give you a good example. I can give you a good example of what you just said. I'm not saying that I see paranormal things. I'm just giving you some accounts of some of the things a couple times in my life I've had some experiences. So one time I went to Tombstone, Arizona I was in a motel across from Boot Hill. So about 4:00 in the morning, I had seen reenactors walking in the dresses you see like in the time of Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday in the dresses they're wearing. So this lady appears to it appears to be this lady in my room appears at my bed in that type of dress from that type of period exactly. And she materializes in front of my bed. It scares me. And I didn't know whether this was real or not. So later on, I come home, later on I find out, I see a show, there's a lady in white in Tombstone they talk about that maybe had tons of sightings. So I'm thinking, is this, and when I asked the guy in the motel, I said, hey, is this place haunted? I had an experience in my bedroom. He gave me the funniest look. Like he was scared to death. He just didn't say anything. There was something up there. There was something up with his expression on his face.
Yeah. Listen, you don't have to, I always attach a lot, you're not, now, you're not going out of your way to trying to have paranormal experiences, yet from time to time they find you. What that tells me is that if you put your mind to it, you could probably cause more to occur. In other words, you could, if your intent is such, you know what I mean? Then you're sending that signal to the other side and so on, and maybe others willing to appear for you would appear for you. But I'm not even saying that you need to bother with that. I think that when and if anything like this happens to you again, I always think there's a reason. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
There's a reason. And because you don't see it every day and because you've been in hundreds of caves and it's only happened a few times, so there's a reason. And what could those reasons be? One, the spirit is stuck and maybe they need your help. Or they like you and they want to tell you something, or, you know what I mean? If they were upset with you, then I think that would be made clear to you. You know what I mean? Because it would be a much more horrifying experience, I think. You know what I mean? I can't know any of this for sure, right? Or they need your help in some way, or they're so urgently in need of conveying some kind of a message. They want to say something, so that there's a reason for this to happen. Could be that they want you to know about them, or about the item that you just found, or about the area that you just found the item in, or what. It might take you with some good probing questions,
There's something else I'd like to ask you, because by talking to you all, I find psychics interesting. I find this stuff interesting, but there's something I will tell you that physically occurred, and maybe you can explain this to me. I don't know. One time I was out here looking, there's this fort called Logan's Fort in our area. So I got excited about looking for the remains of it. So I'm driving down the road one day, and I just pull into a guy's driveway. And I started talking to him, and I said, hey, I'm just kind of driving down the neighborhood here, just seeing if anybody has any old-looking stuff out they might like to sell, antiques. And he said, and I started talking about Logan's Fort, and turns out he was the guy that was on the Historical Society here in my town at the time, and he knew the lady that owned the house that was on top of where Logan's Fort was, and she give him a pungeon out like a board from the floor, one of the only ones maybe they've ever found left, she said came from the fort that was recovered from under her house. And he said, we got to talking about Fort Logan. I never met this guy in my life. And he said, oh, you might be interested in something. Come into my building. So I go into his building, and there's the punch, and he shows it to me in the building. I pull in his driveway talking about the fort, and he's the one with the piece in his building. Yeah. Now, that was really strange. He invites me to his house. They used to have funerals in his house. That was an old house. So he starts telling me all the pioneers sometime will communicate with you. He said, they'll lead you to stuff. And he said, it's weird. I've heard voices. Yet I can explain this. My father took me all my life. So he kind of blew my mind. But that's what he told me. And he really freaked me out when he told me that. But interesting.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of possible things going on there, which is, yes, spirits are leading you down the trail. And so again, sometimes we can be absolutely aware of the spirit activity and the communication that's going on, or we just get an idea in our head, we don't know where it came from, and we go do something, and it turns out that, boom, we call this synchronicity or fluke, or we call it whatever we call it, right? Another possible thing, though, is that I'm running on a theory that we create our own blueprint for life. We create our own roadmap so that before we come into life, we've picked our spirit guide, we've picked our team. We've picked our parents, we've picked the critical major experiences that we will go through in this lifetime. We have charted out. We have placed them there for ourselves. And so I feel like there's, let me say this, is if I go to Edmonton to Calgary, okay, it's a 3-hour drive. If I take the most direct route, it's a 3-hour drive. So on my roadmap for this lifetime, for example, Calgary is a must for me, okay? I must go to Calgary, and whether I don't go willingly or what, something will happen to cause me to be in Calgary. And there might be important timing for that, okay? So if I don't get there on my own, something else will happen that will cause me to have to be there at that moment in time where I need to be there. Now, the route that I take to get to Calgary might not be as important. So I might stop at Red Deer or dive out to there. I might go to China first, whatever the thing is. But if in my blueprint, I must be in Calgary on September the 21st, you know what I mean? 2017, something will happen that forces and causes me to be there if I haven't gone there on my own by then. Uh-huh. And so sometimes we don't always, this is the same reason why sometimes in my life, you don't know, one thing that I did as a kid leads me to a situation as an adult where I'm positioned perfectly to, if I wouldn't have done that thing and known that person when I was a kid, then this fluke encounter of that person later on in life would not have resulted in this great thing that just happened for me with that person. You know what I mean? Like getting a great job or whatever it is, or, meeting somebody through them that goes on to be the true love of my life or whatever the case is. But it's that earlier sort of like knowing of them, relationship with them, friendship, whatever it is you want to call it, that sets up the later experience that becomes a real important part of my life path. You know what I mean? And so call it what you will. And I don't pretend to know in your case. Spidey senses, I always refer to spidey senses. You know what I mean? And so you know, like, but you could be getting led there by your own spirit guide. You could be getting led there because you've already planned it out in your path. This is a passion of yours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's going to be really important things along the road in this caving career, or this exploring, or whatever you want to call it, career of yours, where there's going to be decisions you make and you have no idea why you made that decision, but it put you in the right place at the right time. And
yeah, I mean, we didn't set out to find these things to get known or anything. That, like, the skeleton was just totally by accident to find it that day. You know,
cognitively as this human being, Larry, but yourself, when you were planning out this lifetime for yourself, you may well have put that skeleton, that find there for yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It may have been fated for you to find that.
Yeah, it's been a part of my life. I mean, like what some of the people said, you know, you're known for that. And so and of course they put it in a magazine and newspapers and stuff, so I've got stuff to remember it by, and that's also was exciting, you know.
Right. So, you know, the thing is that it's not always you know, it's not always critical that you know why. Just that you accept that it is, and you go from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems like good things happen when I start fooling with that skeleton. You know, thinking about it or doing stuff. It seems like things. I was just joking with people saying, I think magical things happen when I start talking about it or putting it on my Facebook. You know, again, and or
I mean,
things.
It may well be that, you know, that just even get it coming on this show and stoking up the conversation will jar something else loose and cause, you know, who knows what. You know what I mean? And so we just take it for what it is.
If I have time, I wish I could tell you this one small story about a cave.
Okay, listen. Let's take a song break in case anyone has to go to the washroom. We can run over a bit as long as you can run over a bit, so that's not a worry. So
yeah, I'm here as long as you want me to. I'm here as long as you need me.
I'll throw on a song. It's about 5 minutes, and give everybody a little bit of a leg stretch, and then we'll come back after that, okay?
Okay.
All righty then. Welcome back, and we're here still with Larry. The Kentucky Cave Creeper. I'm going to do a quick shout out for those who are still with us. It's a late show, so it's getting on to midnight in some of the places. Amy's still there. Hi, Amy. And Jamie, you're still unmuted, actually. Christy is there. Diane, Mary Margaret, Mike. Hi, Mike. How are you? Corrine, Supernatural Radio, the Purple Plate Lady, www.purpleplates.com. And of course Larry is here, and so we're gonna get Larry. I'm frozen. Darn it. Hey Larry, if you can go on to the never mind. I'm just gonna refresh real quick, and I'll help you. You're there. You unmuted yourself. Okay, good. Well, good. That's what I needed you to be able to do, is unmute yourself, but I didn't know if I could explain it properly for you.
Yeah, the technical side is not easy for me. The talking and stuff, I don't mind.
Doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good. And so you're back with us. Tell everyone again where they can find you on Facebook, and then we'll get into your this story you wanted to share with us.
Yeah, I can be found on as the Kentucky Cave Creeper on Facebook, and I have a like page on there. Anybody that wants to go to my cave page, I put a lot of stuff on it. And you can also go to my YouTube page. Just go to YouTube and type in Kentucky Cave Creeper, and I have about 40-something videos on there that we've made of some of the explorations and stuff, finds that we've made.
Awesome. So there's another story you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, I wanted to share a story with you. I was in this large cave in south of here, and I'd been in the cave before and there was no water, but just in passages. So I thought, well, we'll go camp out in the woods and we'll walk to this cave. We'll take a rubber raft, we'll put it in there, and we'll go in and try to do a little exploration in some of these passages. This will be fun. So I get this rubber raft that once belonged to my grandfather, and we pump it up, and that night the pump got stuck in the raft. So as I was trying to pump it up, I could not get the pump took out of the raft, so I just had to leave it in there. So when I actually hiked and carried all this equipment in this cave, which was pretty grueling, me and my friend, we camped out the night before. When we got in there, we had talked to I guess it was the Army Corps of Engineers that morning, and they told us, they said, don't go in this cave. It's been raining for like a week. You'll be committing suicide if you go in there. They told us not to go in there, but of course we were young. We didn't listen to them. We went in anyway. So I put got down to what we called the big lake at the time, put the raft in the water, and because I couldn't quite get it pumped up good enough, I put my foot in the raft and the whole thing sunk underwater, and I almost fell in it. And if I did, I don't know if it would have killed me or not, but it was pretty scary. So I thought, well, maybe we're not supposed to go in here because this pump has got stuck in this raft like some kind of an omen or something. So we just aborted that mission there on the part about putting it in the water. So I don't know if the part about it getting stuck was something that happened so we wouldn't get in there and get killed, because you could hear water running. If we had gotten there and we lost our lights, it would have been the end of us, and we could hear like a waterfall running. It might have drawn us to that and caused us to go down into something. So we were pretty stupid in those days.
Yeah,
we did a lot of hair-raising things.
Yeah, that's just it. Sometimes, again, our guides or God or whatever will protect us from our own stupidity, and so we get set up so that we can't do this dumb thing we were gonna do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say to people, when they say in the morning, they're in a rush to get out and they're running a little, might be running a minute or so late, and they're all agitated about it, and then to make matters worse, they then spill their coffee all over their slacks, and now they have to change their slacks, and which makes them even later. And so the thing is that what we don't know is that by being that much later, you might have avoided a car accident that would have happened, or you might have. So I often look at these things that happen that seem to be things that obstruct us, or get in our way, or stop us, or seem to inconvenience us, or whatever the case is, as being things that are inconvenient and bad. They actually turn out to be a thing that is a good thing for us that we needed, and sometimes I think is sometimes our spirit guides or God or angels or something like that at work. You know what I mean?
Like when the space shuttle blew up that time, I think they started having, when they took the school teacher up there for the first time, I think they started having problems that kept occurring, and they had to keep fixing things, and so maybe that was a sign, she shouldn't have went, or they should have just postponed that for a while. NASA should have.
Right. Again, I always think that these big things that happen are meant to happen, as bad as they are or whatever. And I look at it more or less like the other way around. So take September 11th as an example. All the people that missed their flight, you know what I mean? Because something kept them or made them late, or they slept in, or they avoided. Yeah. So those are things that are happening that interfere with the regular schedule that they had wanted to keep, but they may never know that was a thing that saved their life. You know what I mean? And
I do, yes.
so going back to your original question, whatever the cause of it was, is that if that pump hadn't have been stuck, you guys would have gone, right?
Yeah, we would have gotten the raft and went on in there, and absolutely. And there was a good area. It looked like a lake, a big giant pond or something. It really filled up. It was probably 50 feet deep in there. If you fell out and got lost, I don't know when they would find you.
I think that's one of those cases, right, where your higher self or your angels, your guides, your God,
I think
whatever.
so, yeah. I feel like it is, yeah. That was something going on there, yes.
So I always say to people, before you go, oh, damn it, you ruined my whole day, like it might have saved your life, and you might never get to know that. But sometimes these things that we look at as like inconveniences or unfortunate happenings are actually a good thing.
If I would have just listened to the Army Corps of Engineers in the first place when they said don't go in there, I would have been all right anyway. But we're just too stubborn,
Sure. Yeah. So and again, I think that's something is like intervening in order to save you from yourself.
I probably need to be saved from myself a few times, and my friends too.
You're still meant to be here, and I can't say that's I don't know how many people's lives you've saved in your work as a police officer, and I don't even know if you know, because again, we don't always know what our actions, what the end result of all of our actions are. We may touch many people's lives in significant ways and never get to know that. And so I always say like that, people are meant to be where they are, when they're there, like it or lump it. You're there for a reason, and nothing is an accident. To me, nothing is really an accident. Nothing of significance, is really an accident.
That's an interesting theory. It is.
So it's why like you happen along at exactly a specific moment that's critical to someone else. And all of these things that happen to us, I don't believe are always about that it's about my fulfilling something on my life path necessarily. Like it's not to put a check mark beside my bucket list item. It's possibly for the other person. You know what I mean? And so everything that happens to me in my life isn't about my lesson or something I needed to learn or something I might just be helping someone else in theirs. You know what I mean? And I don't really try to worry too much about which it is. I just like carry along with it. You know how they say if you go with the flow, if you fight a stream, like if you get thrown into a rushing stream, and then you panic and you start flailing your arms around and fighting against the current, you're going to run out of energy at some point and probably drown. If on the other hand, you just relax and let the current carry you, preserve your energy, there will be an opportunity down the way to grab onto a rock or grab onto a branch or something like that. But if you exhaust yourself fighting against the current, you're not going to be in any position to do much to yourself.
That actually happened to me and my friend. We took a canoe one time after the rains got a river around this area called Green River up. It was like when they flood levels, the river was real high, had ice on the banks, it was still cold. We put a canoe in the river, and we probably went up 3 or 4 feet in the air. I mean, not off the water, but in a big current, it just kind of pushed us up and dumped us in the canoe, so we fell out. And we just kept our cool, though, like you said, and luckily there was an embankment, and it just pushed us into this horseshoe bend instead of carrying us on down the river. We would have had a lot more trouble trying to get out. We hung on to the boat, and it went into the bin.
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes with life, that's what we have to do too, is just go with the flow. Don't fight it. We have to sometimes trust that there's a bigger plan in play. Whether you want to call that God's plan or your plan or whoever's plan, doesn't matter. But if you have the faith that there's a plan, you know what I mean? That there's a reason for this thing. So there's
Absolutely.
a question in the chat room. Did you ever go back to that cave when it wasn't raining?
Yeah, we've been back in there again, and the water levels were down when we went back in again. And that passage there would, I'm almost certain, will connect with the one called Screaming Willie that the people actually died in. It's just like a big 60-foot tube straight down.
Right.
And a truck actually wrecked up there full of gasoline, poured it into the cave. So right now you can't go in it until it finally evaporates because, it's very dangerous with the fumes and the chemicals it spilled. And that was a shame that happened. But, because there's the road runs parallel to the cave, a highway there, so a tanker just happened to have a wreck there one time.
Well, listen, I mean, you want to, I'm just going to throw this out at you, again, the timing of this, you're going to be on my show, and then this new show starts on TV called Darkness or Darkness or something like that. Just Google, Google TV show. Here, let me see if I can, I'll get you the exact name. So, TV, reality, caves, dark. And I'll just see if I can find it.
I wrote it down here.
Darkness. It's called Darkness. Darkness reality show puts contestants in dark cave. It's on the Discovery Channel. And now, so if you have good survival skills and things like that, maybe you want to go be a contestant on that. You know what I mean? Go be in that, and then there's your launch pad to your own reality show. You know what I mean?
Sure. If they want me to do it, yeah, I'd do it. I don't care going into one without a light, as long as they don't let me just walk off into some kind of pit and die or something.
No,
I'll be.
If after 5 days, they send someone in for you. And by the way, they have got a crew that has all the night vision cameras and all that. But they're instructed, of course, to not interact at all with the people. Just to be there to capture, what's going on. So nobody's going to die in there. You know what I'm saying? And they do give you, in the one they had, it was there was a water source available by way of, it was an old system where, the military had put these black barrels that were lined and safe and everything else, but they contained water, and that they were sealed up in such a way that there would not be able to be contaminated. And so these particular contestants found the barrel of water, so there was their water source. Other caves will have a natural water source, and it's up to the contestants to find that. And then as for food, you gotta, I don't know what they let you take, if anything, but I guess you gotta eat a couple bugs maybe, I don't know, but maybe they send you in there with some enough ready to eat rations, or I don't know what it would be, but you might want to look into it, because it might not be such an accident that the timing of you coming on the show and then you wanting to have a reality show, and there's a leg in, a leg up, if at least you can make some inquiries about it anyway.
Yeah, I'll definitely look into that. That sounds really interesting. I just had not heard of it yet for some reason, but it's very interesting.
Yeah.
No light at all. They don't give you any light. Nothing to see with.
Right. Nothing.
That's cool.
And so here, copy. Here's the link. Here's the link in the chat room for you. Um, so there, you can check that out. You can right-click on that link and save copy link or something, and then paste it into a browser. And you can even see one or two of the episodes that have been on. You can watch online, I think, there through that link. So you can check that out. But so
yeah,
is there anything else that you want to leave the listeners with before we sign off?
Well, I would just we found some petroglyphs one time in a cave that was undiscovered, and a stone house in one in this area. So there's always a lot of really interesting things to find.
Very, very cool. And a lot of these things can be found on your YouTube. And so people can take and spend some time on your YouTube channel and check out some of your videos. They can meet your kids, your caving partners.
Yeah, I have two identical twin boys. They're 14 years old now. They just started high school. They're really good kids. They tell me they want to be YouTube stars. I took them to VidCon in Los Angeles, California, and I forgot to tell you this. I was invited to, I don't know if you've heard of the Maxim Halloween party in Los Angeles or in Hollywood. I got an invite by a producer to go down there. So I went down there as the Kentucky Cave Creeper. And when I got there, people were pretty curious. I stayed for the whole party. There was a lot of stars there and stuff, and a whole bunch and it was really exciting. So I got a video of that also on my YouTube channel that I took while I was there at the party.
Yeah. Awesome. That's good. Good for you.
I went as the Kentucky Cave Creeper.
And, maybe another time, within the next couple of months or something, if you want to put together a couple of other more stories or something you want to come and share with us, I also would be interested if ever you have any more of these paranormal experiences, and if you're able to focus yourself to not, to just chill and ground yourself and see if you can't get to the bottom of it, and see if you can't, ask them what they want or if you can help them, and then just take note of, anything that you sense, perceive, think, hear, see, all of it, you might well be a pretty psychic individual, but you just might not realize it, because like me, I only get thoughts in my head, which I can never distinguish my own from something else. And so I always say, like, the stupid stuff is mine and the smart stuff is spirit, guided, and, that's my only way of telling. I don't know if you'd want to see it. I had one artifact setting here that was looked at by archaeologists. It come out of the mounds. The mound builders would have had this type of thing that's called a Popeye birdstone. It's like a real sought after Indian artifact. They don't know what its use is for though yet. They think maybe they threw spears with it. But, I had it sitting here if you wanted to see it. I didn't know if somebody might want to read it. Yeah, I was told it was real. Like right here it is. As you can see, it looks like a bird. Yeah.
These are really fascinating. They're highly polished and probably 2,000 or 3,000 years old.
Wow.
And they have holes under them. They're drilled. They don't know what the use is. Archaeologists don't know exactly yet. So if an archaeologist ever found one of these associated with the sticks or whatever's attached, it would be a first to know exactly what it was used for. There's theories on it, but yeah, I thought I would show you that, at least have something that's in my collection that show you.
That's very cool. Very cool. Now, are these like the mounds that are sometimes associated with giants?
Well, they talk about giants. I understand all you're saying about these giants and everything, but the mound builders, I've been to a whole lot of museums. I've been to the Smithsonian Institution before. I've been to all kinds of mound complexes. In Ohio, there's one called the Great Serpent Mound. Looks like a giant snake with an egg in its mouth. You may be familiar with it. They probably didn't bury dead people in that one, but some of these other mounds, they're regular people. but they were cremated and put in the mounds, and sometimes they would bury artifacts. But I mean, as far as the giants, I've heard the stories. They could be associated with some giants.
Interesting.
They talk about large tribe of people, 7 feet tall and stuff back in the early times. So there's accounts of that.
Yeah. Interesting. They say that there's still, so that there's people who might have double rows of teeth or something like that. They would be descendants of them, and not. I don't know all about that either. I leave myself open to, some of these ideas, but I don't just jump on that bandwagon so quickly,
Yeah, one of the biggest things that interests me is I wonder if there was white people here before Columbus who discovered America. Some of these things in the caves we see inscribed in there, if that was something to do with earlier race of people that were here. There's accounts of it in Kentucky. Of, some of them coming down a river and crashing a boat, like in the 1100s. It's a story it's always been told. They vanished down here somewhere in a place called Burnside. On the Cumberland River area there.
Well, it's also to say that, we don't necessarily know, golly, I guess associate Vikings and all of this kind of stuff and all that. I don't know who or what, or, I always I don't know that only white people made boats, though. So I don't really know the answer to that. There's many people who, believe that Indians were not the first people in North America and all that. I hate getting into those arguments with people, and you never know. You never know.
The Clovis points that they find, they're trying to determine whether Native Americans made those that they're supposed to be 20,000 years old, or if maybe a white race made them. They think Native Americans, but they're a distinctive type of arrowhead, and that's always on my mind. There's coastal migration theories, the theory they came down through the land bridges, and even the Solutrean theory, they crossed the Atlantic from the other side and came in on the east, similar points to the Clovis. There's a lot of good theories out there. I wrote some papers on some of that when I was in college. I took some anthropology classes. While I was in there.
Yeah, it's all very interesting, and I don't have a great education in history and all of that kind of stuff, so I try to avoid getting into too many arguments about stuff that I really don't know.
There's this old prospector. He's dead now, but in several years ago, I guess 20 years before I was born, they went down in the woods, a very remote place in Kentucky. You can get lost and go for 10 miles and not be found. And he said he found a skull that was like a sloped forehead. So I started getting out books on Neanderthal men and stuff and showing him. He said that's what it looked like. They found the top. So he actually took me down into this site, and we looked for that head, but we could not find the head, but we found a lot of Indian artifacts. And so I've went a couple times. So I'm going to go back. I want to do a video on that to see if we can locate that head. And it could have been that the Indians pressed a board on the head that's not so old, but there were points found there called Dalton points that they're about 9,000 years old. That's paleo. And I don't know of any Dalton man ever being found. So maybe he discovered maybe that's the remnants of a Dalton man, which would be something like the Clovis type people they're looking for. So it's interesting. That's why I'm so interested in, I guess, archaeology and in documentaries and TV stuff. It's just all good way to document it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, hey, listen, I appreciate you spending your valuable time with us here. Very interesting. Oh, you want to know if he's a Kentucky Wildcat or a Louisville Cardinal fan?
Well, I like them both all right, but I'm a Wildcat fan more. I'm into more of the Wildcats. But there are those other fans too that don't like the Wildcats so much. It's a little bit of a rivalry here.
And she goes like me. Okay, so that's the same as her.
So,
we have our friend who just loves Kentucky. She goes for the Kentucky Derby every year, and she was in what's the one that comes the day before the Kentucky Derby? There's the Run for the Roses.
Run for the Roses.
So she was in that parade there, not this past year, but the year before, and as a breast cancer survivor, and Kentucky Oaks, yeah. And so she loves she loves Kentucky, and
Kentucky's nice, yeah. It's a nice place.
I love Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'm just kidding.
I've been to Canada once, Toronto and Niagara Falls, so I love Canada too.
There you go. Diane in Canada is in Toronto, from Toronto. I'm over here in Western Canada in Alberta.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I heard over in that area.
Yeah, we're pretty. I mean, we get damn cold, right? But our spiders aren't big enough to put saddles on and ride into the sunset either. And and we're pretty safe from, we don't have the hurricanes, we do get tornadoes now and then, but other than that, we're not in we're not really an active earthquake country. We're not we got no volcanoes, we got no none of those other natural disasters. So pretty lucky. We could freeze to death at any given moment, but
yeah, the Canadian people, they're great people. They're tough. I always hear they're tough people.
Well, they say, that we are, and we're no different, we got assholes and good people, we got weak people and strong people, we got smart people and stupid people, just like any other city, town, country. We're all part of the good people. And so, like, whatever the good people are, wherever they come from, they come from, just like cops, right? Not all cops are not bad cops, and all cops are not good cops. And,
when I went to Canada that one time, there was cops standing on the bridge with radars. And that maybe it was just a certain time of year they done that, but that was intimidating. But I have to say, that was intimidating. They'd have their police car. They'd be standing on those bridges. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Well, because they got to make their quota. Hey, they got to get the revenue. They got to get the speeding ticket revenue and take advantage of all the travelers. That's another way I've often had a sixth sense. Is with radar traps and things like that. I just even when they brought out the photo radar, where they'd have a van stuck off on the side of the road, and once you learned where those were, there's more than a handful of times where especially like the first time I'd ever seen it happen, is I'm like, because then usually you go, okay, now I'm past the photo radar van, I can speed again, right? And so I'm all like, that time though, I'm like, I have a feeling that there's another one a little ways up, and damn it if there wasn't. You know what I mean? The tricky little bastards. And so, but in that case, I had that idea in my head, so I didn't start speeding again. And so I kind of had that little bit of a sixth sense around those. But now, ever since, like now they have the damn things on all the red light cameras, and they got like, I don't even know what they got out there anymore, and so you're not doing any. Pretty soon it'll be like one of those movies, and a piece of litter falls from your pocket, and you're being fined. Some loudspeaker will come on, and you'll be fined. Your bank account will be seized or something like that.
It can be good, but it's a violation of a little bit violating our rights too, maybe, I think. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, this is, like up here, where I live, nearby me, there's this road, and it goes all the way to the end, and then like, it's almost at the edge there, and anything beyond it is a little more rural, a little more country, and, so right at the end of that road, there happens to be a little shopping complex, and in that shopping complex, there's a bowling alley. And in that bowling alley, or on the exterior of the bowling alley, is some some surveillance cameras or whatever. You know what I mean? And so one time we had this murder. We had a murder. We had a woman that got murdered. And, of course, you're gonna suspect the husband or whatever, I guess, law enforcement. So anyway, long and short of it is that down the way the whole thing got solved because this external parking lot video system that the bowling alley had captured. You could capture that the woman's vehicle, what was found out in the country there. The woman's vehicle. So this video camera spotted that, and then spotted the man walking back without the vehicle. You know what I mean? Walking back. And so he got busted and convicted on the basis of that. Well, I'm sure there was other corroborating that isn't, I can't remember off the top of my head, but so sometimes you're right, like these surveillance systems that are out there everywhere now, it seems, the police have a way in many cases of like following the path of any vehicle or person. If there's enough businesses along a route that have, some kind of external surveillance system installed. And so, along with whatever traffic, surveillance systems are in place in some of the cities, so.
Yeah, they're the big help to us, Steve. Yes.
I speak to you like if you're not doing anything bad, you know what I mean, then I guess it's, not much of a violation. I remember when I worked at the psych hospital up here, and I was the union rep at the time. Actually, by now I wasn't working at the hospital. I was working for the union. And some of our people reported to us that after hours, so when our regular maintenance guys went home, these crews would come in and they were like installing something on the roofs of some of the buildings. And so number one, that was a violation of our union members' jobs because that should be their work. They should be the ones installing that. And so anyways, I went and had a big meeting with the president and a bunch of other top management people. And finally, I'm all like, we demand to know where all of these cameras are. I go, let me put it to you this way. I want to know where it's safe for me to scratch my ass when I'm at this hospital, And so of course, they had to hand over the location of all of the cameras that they had. But anyway, I digress. We're well past our time. Thank you very much for coming. We're contacted with each other on Facebook now, so you know how to get a hold of me. Should it come up that you want to come back on and tell us some more stories or anything like that?
Anytime, I would love to come back on if you want to have me back on. And I sure appreciate you letting me be a guest, and all the people that are listening to us, I appreciate them as well because. But thank you very much, Chris, for letting me be on your show.
No, it's good. I mean, it's a win-win because, they get tired of the same old guests every day, every week, the same old person every Monday, same person every Tuesday, and mostly so many psychic readings and all that kind of stuff. So it's nice for us to get a little break from the regular, and so it was, I'm sure, if nothing else, a nice break for everybody. I
love anyone that's a fan of mine anyway. I love all my fans out there.
Mhm. So you can thank Jamie too for putting us into connection with each other.
Absolutely, Jamie's a wonderful person, and I do thank Jamie for putting me in touch with you. I'm glad I met Jamie. She's real interesting, very interesting person.
Interesting. We always use that now. Anyway, okay, it's my supper time. I'm going to get out of here, everybody. Thank you again, Kentucky Cave Creeper, Larry Johnson. Go find him on YouTube and find him on Facebook and keep up to date with him on what he's got going on that way. And we're going to get out of here. We are back tomorrow with Jen Young, And so we'll be back here tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And you too, Larry. We're out of here in 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.
Bye.